When I consult with small businesses, the two best options are usually either to have a full audit and remediation or to proactively make fixes as fast as possible. On the screen with me is a mountain, and we're using this mountain graphic to represent scaling all the way up to ADA compliance or WCAG 2.1 AA conformance. And so we're going to get there through this flow that I have. And these are the talking points during a consultation session. It's a mock consultation session, as if you were my client. So we start at the bottom and we have either we are making fixes or we are auditing the website to exhaustively find all of the issues. Which path you choose is going to depend on your approach and your style and your budget. Either way, we want to make sure that we start immediately. If your budget is smaller, or if you prefer to just get started as soon as possible, the fixes route is going to be the best route. And this is just where you're going to attack your website and you're going to use my ADA compliance course as the strategic component and as the education and information so that you're learning as you're taking action. The course is going to tell you exactly what to fix and how to fix it. So you'll have that course, and that course will be instructing you. But the course is focused in on just the primary 15 accessibility issues that plaintiffs' law firms claim in complaints filed in court and or demand letters. So that's the basis there. It's a quick and fast start, but it's not for full WCAG 2.1 AA conformance. The audit is. So either way, when we're auditing, we're going to be finding issues. When we're making fixes, we're also going to be finding issues, but then we're going to be immediately fixing those issues as soon as we find them. So the arrow points to the next flow, which is we are going to go with a developer or an agency. So if we're going through with an audit, then we're going to choose an accessibility service provider agency. And the key here is service provider. We need the service. We don't need any solutions. We don't need any software. We don't need scans. We need the service for the audit. Or if we are going the fixes route, then we're going to need to make sure we have a developer. Now, this may mean you contract with a developer. This may mean that you have a developer in-house. Whatever the path, we need to make sure that we have a skilled and competent developer who is going to diligently work through the issues that they find. And they're not only going to be finding issues, they're going to be working through the process laid out in the ADA compliance course. So that's going to be an important part of this. You need to have a good developer because, again, these are only going to be a certain set of very commonly targeted accessibility issues, but you need to have a developer who is going to remediate those and fix those the right way. So then the next flow up the mountain is the consultant review or remediation. It would be a really prudent next step if you go the immediate fixes route to have a consultant review the work. So again, this isn't an audit. This is also considering that there may be budgetary restraints, but with that in mind, if we have a consultant review the work, even if we just work quickly, let's just say we hire a consultant for 2 or 3 hours, that's going to provide some assurance and relief knowing that we have actually remediated the issues and we have resolved a lot of issues. This isn't going to be a full audit, but it will be something that provides assurance that some of the work you have done has been done correctly, and then you know that you have advanced past those accessibility issues. Now, alternatively, if you've gone the full audit route, this is where you're going to, as soon as the audit is finished, then you're going to have remediation where you're going to fix those issues. So there is a lot involved here. Again, we could go the in-house route, the developer route, the service agency route, but we want to make sure that whoever is working on the website is going to fully remediate all of the issues found in the audit. And what happens all too often is that some work is done on the audit, but then the work trails off, ultimately isn't completed, new changes are ushered in, and then the audit loses its freshness. So you need to make sure that if you go the full audit route, that you actually remediate those issues immediately found in the audit. And then as we continue to scale up to the mountaintop, depending on the path you've chosen, the mountaintop might be that you have fixed all of the 15 and a half plus issues. That's because there are a few more issues that I've added to the ADA compliance course, just as I've discovered those while looking through complaints. But if you've reached this mountaintop for the fixes approach, the proactive approach, where you're just immediately attacking accessibility, your mountaintop is going to be that you have indeed fixed those 15 plus issues. For those who choose the full audit and remediation route, you need to be at WCAG 2.1 AA conformance to reach this mountaintop. And then along with that, depending on the provider, you can get documentation that certifies that, yes, your website is fully WCAG 2.1 AA conformant. Now, although we've reached the mountaintop, we can ascend from here. So if if you're taking the proactive course where you've utilized the ADA compliance course, you have worked through the course, you have completed all of the recommendations in the course. From here, you can keep going to full WCAG 2.1 AA conformance. And so your team is going to learn a lot about accessibility as you go through the course. So that's going to help. And then you would continue on with the rest of the WCAG 2.1 AA success criteria. And you can learn about these success criteria in the WCAG course or through other documentation that I offer on accessible.org. So that's how you continue on after you've reached your summit for the proactive approach, where you're just immediately finding issues and fixing those issues. Now, if you've taken the full path, you want to get to WCAG 2.1 AA conformance, but then we need to maintain conformance. So it's not enough that we just get to this peak where we have a website at a point in time for, let's say, a scope of 20 pages. We know that those 20 pages are fully WCAG 2.1 AA conformant. We need to go beyond that, and we need to make sure that we maintain that conformance. So here, this could involve training. In fact, it will involve training. This could involve possibly annual audits. This can involve user testing, so that someone who has a disability, who is blind or visually impaired, has gone through the website. You've got a screen recorded or a recorded session of this user testing session, where someone who is blind or visually impaired is going through the website. They're using a screen reader and they are not finding any additional issues. So there is still work that can be done after you've reached the mountaintop, no matter what path you've chosen. But when I talk to clients, this is the general progression that we want to work towards and we want to work through. Now, it's very important that the steps are done the right way the whole way through. So we need to pay attention to detail, and we need to make sure that whoever is doing the work is doing the work competently and diligently. It's not that it has to be done perfectly, but if it's done the right way, if someone cares as they are going along, then we're going to have a really good result. In contrast, if you hire someone quickly, if you just hire anybody who says that they can work on ADA compliance, if you go for one of the solutions, the providers that offer the solutions, the companies that are selling solutions, then our path can go astray. So we need to make sure that we continue ascending up this mountain in a very straight path. Because if we start moving around, going back and forth, that's going to cost us more money, and that's going to end up making our project take much longer than it should. So both paths have their pros. Both paths offer, and both paths have their cons. The pros being, when we look at the accessibility fixes and we take action on those right away. I like that path in part because this is not waiting on anything. This is just go, and we're making fixes, and we're immediately impacting the accessibility of the website. So as we work through the accessibility issues, and they are prioritized in the ADA compliance course, as we work through those issues, we are genuinely improving the accessibility of our website while lowering our risk of being sued. But of course, at the end of the course, your website still will not be WCAG 2.1 AA conformant. So there are still other accessibility considerations to be made, but you will have worked through those issues that frequently come up and frequently cause website owners to be sued. So on the other side, with the full audit and remediation, obviously it's going to cost much more. The other con is that it's going to take more time, and especially that more time is going to be at the remediation stage. The audit usually doesn't take too long, maybe 2, 3, or 4 weeks, usually for the audit. Remediation is where things can get, where things can become, the timeline extends, and it really depends on who is working on remediation. But that is so key, is that during remediation, the fixes are being made as fast as possible, and there aren't changes being made to the website. So those are, both are really, really good options, and it's either route you choose. You need to be proactive with this so that if you have been sued, you aren't sued again. And if you haven't been sued, then hopefully we preempt litigation altogether. But this is the general path. When I'm talking to small businesses, this is the general path that we're going on. And when I talk to larger organizations, obviously there could be more digital assets involved, and the timeline can be longer because more people are involved. And then we also might have other parts of this as part of the project. So there might be training involved early on. But this is how small businesses can think about this is what small businesses can think about as they start to approach making their website ADA compliant. So in the YouTube description, I will link to the ADA compliance course, which I highly recommend, regardless of the path you choose, because it will educate you on when you are evaluating different service providers and companies. It will help you know what exactly you need before you start to talk to these various digital accessibility companies, because they do try to sell you on things that you don't need. If you go through the course, you will understand not only what you need, which is services, you need someone to actually work on the website, but you also need the attention to detail. The details are what counts here. The details are what prevents lawsuits, and most organizations, that's their primary focus right now, is preventing litigation. And so, of course, we want to make sure our digital experiences are accessible, but there's no reason to pay plaintiffs' lawyers while we're doing this. So we want to make sure that we keep that money and we can put that money towards accessibility rather than settling with plaintiffs' law firms. So I will link to accessible.org services in the description. And I already mentioned the ADA compliance course. I will also link to the WCAG course. These training programs will really help your team learn exactly what you need to know. And as I said, even if you do plan on going through a service provider, it's always good to have looked through the courses or to have someone have gone through the courses, because then you understand what you need. Then you have a better feel for accessibility. You know better what questions to ask, and then it will really help you start to sort and filter out the different digital accessibility companies that you don't want to work with. So I will include those links in the description.